Hey guys, it's me, and today I'm here with a new declutter video. I wound up doing a lot more decluttering than I was expecting myself to do. It's a small Ulta box, but still, like, the sucker is heavy. There's a lot of stuff in here. And there's also like stuff that I have off to the side on my desk here because there's some items that I'm going to be decluttering eventually, but I'm holding on to them for the time being until I get replacements for them or until they're completely used up because some of them are almost empty. So I'm going to show you guys all the different things that I am decluttering or soon to be decluttering. There are also some empties in here as well. I'll be sure to let you guys know which of those items those are and everything. There's not too many empties. I think there's only about maybe like 3 or 4 of them. But before we dive on into this declutter, if you guys are new here to my channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, and also while you're down there, definitely give this video a thumbs up because that'll help me out a lot. All my links are down in the description box below, and yeah, let's do this. Starting out with the items that are soon going to be decluttered. We'll start out with this guy because it's not that exciting. This is a setting spray, and it is the Seal the Deal Hydrating Setting Spray Dewy Finish from Flower Beauty. So I've been using this setting spray a lot lately because this isn't my favorite setting spray. Of the setting sprays that I've tried, my favorite one is the NYX Dewy Setting Spray. This one's pretty good. It's just that the mister on it is so fine that it's hard for me to tell how much I'm actually am using and how much is actually landing on my face because it is so fine. This item I might declutter, I might keep it. I'm gonna try it soon because I haven't used this guy in quite some time, but it is the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk. This is an OG product right here. If you've been hanging around the beauty space here on YouTube, this is like an OG cult favorite type of product. This is a really good product to use as a base for bright colorful eyeshadows. I thought about using it today, but since I knew that I was going to be using like pastels and whatnot, there would be a possibility that having this white base, you would actually see the base shine through the shades. So I'm glad that I didn't use this because, I mean, the shades are very soft. But I'll probably try out using this palette again using this though, just to see if it'll help the colors pop a bit more. But this is a cream shadow type formula. They have other shades, but Milk and I think Black Bean are the most popular ones because Black Bean is black and most people use these as bases. They tend to not use these as like cream shadow. It's a great product. I just haven't used it in a while, so I might declutter this. I'm going to try to use it again like I mentioned, but if I wind up not really caring for it, then I'll probably declutter it because I know the Anastasia eyelid primer gives a similar effect, and I like the fact that that product isn't as dry as this guy is, but at the same time, with this being a stark white and that one just being like a really pale base, this one might work a little bit better. So I'm gonna test it out and also use the Anastasia primer. And then too, the Anastasia primer is really good for doing cut creases. Then we have another product that I'm about to be done with, and that is the Tarte Jelly Glaze Lip Mask in Strawberry Jelly. I got this in one of my Ipsy Glam bags. I can't remember which one it was. Hopefully you guys can see it. I know it's a pretty pale product, so it's probably overexposed. But this is a really nice product. I really do like it. I'm almost done with it. I maybe have like 2 or 3 more uses out of it. And I've made this guy last because I really do just like it. Because, I mean, I haven't done Ipsy since the summer. So I've definitely made this guy last me. But it's a nice product. But the thing is, though, is that although I really do enjoy it, I don't think I'll repurchase it because I know this is like a sample deluxe size portion of it, and the full size you get a lot more product in it, but I don't know if I can justify spending, I think it's like $14 to $17 on the full size, when honestly the only reason why I love this so much is because I love lip balms, and it's pretty much just a lip balm with a tint to it, but it's very hydrating and nourishing. So I don't know if I'll buy a full size of this in the future. I might pick up one of the different shades because they do come in different shades. And they all have like a very slight tint to them. And this one, I feel like with the shade that it is, the tint doesn't really cause that big of a difference with my lip color and everything. It just adds like just a tiniest amount of extra pink to them. But it's a really nice product though, and I definitely recommend it. Will I repurchase it though? That's up in the air. The next item that is on the chopping block, I'm gonna try this guy out one more time on my face, and then I'm also going to take a stab at using it on the body, and then after that I'll make my decision as to whether or not this guy is going to stay in my collection or if I'm decluttering it, but I'm leaning more towards decluttering it, and that is the Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops in the shade Celestial. So these are a super chromy liquid highlighter type of product, and it's really intense. Like when I say it is very chromy, I mean like it is liquid metal, which a tiny little bit of this stuff goes a long way, and it's just very reflective. I use a very tiny amount there, but you can definitely build it up though. There you go. There's a good, better swatch of it. You can make it really sheer like I showed you before, or you can get it really nice and reflective like this. The reason why I initially got this guy is to be like an alternative for the Halo Graphic liquid highlighters from Wet n Wild, because as we know, like I'm very iffy about supporting them. But I wanted to get like a new liquid highlighter because I really loved that formula, and I picked this guy up because I heard great things about this formula, and it's a great product. It's just that I wound up not using it nearly as much as I thought that I would. I mean, I've gotten some good use out of it. I want to say I've used about maybe half of it. Yeah, I've used about half of it. So there's probably about like maybe this much left in there. So maybe just like a little less than half is what I've used out of this guy. And it's a great product. It's just like I said, I just don't use it that often. And so I'm going to try using it on the face again, see how I feel about it. And then I'm going to also like take a stab at doing body highlighter since things are starting to warm up a little bit now. We're hitting that early stage of spring here in Georgia. So where like the temperature wants to go back and forth when it comes to the highs, whether it wants to be like in like the mid to upper 60s to like the very like low 70s, or if it wants to just hang out at around like 50 degrees. So we're in that time frame right now here in Atlanta. So hopefully on like one of the warmer days, I'll try this guy out because I've never tried the body highlighter trend. I've had this guy for nearly 2 years and I haven't even tried it on the body yet. So I'm going to give that a go and just see how that looks. But more than likely, I am going to declutter this. It's a really cool product, but I think they have also discontinued these. Next up, I have a lipstick here, and this guy I am holding on to until I get a alternative for it. And this is a mini version of a ABH lipstick, and it is in the shade Peachy. Now, this is not the packaging that it comes in. I had to depop my ABH mini lipsticks because originally when I got the mini lip set that I got back in 2019, one of the shades came in broke, but it was broke at the base of the tube. So there was no saving it, so it would have to be depotted. And I was just like, these guys do feel a bit dry in the tube, so they're probably all gonna snap. So I just went ahead and depotted them all and put all 6 of them into these little containers here. It's a really nice peachy nude on me because of the fact that it's more neutral in tone. I've tried a peach nude that was a bit, I want to say maybe cooler in tone, and it was just way too pale and just bright and everything. Whereas this guy is actually a really good peachy nude tone on me, and so I want to get a alternative for it. I don't want to get a full size of this guy because I just know that I won't use it enough, and also I don't really care for the Anastasia lipstick formula. It's a nice formula, but it's not my favorite when it comes to bullet lipsticks. So I want to find a alternative for it. I have one in mind, and it's the Fenty Stunna Lip Paint. Can't remember which shade name it is, but it's the nude shade. They're very similar in tone, and so I want to try out that guy. So I'll probably get that at some point, but $25 for a liquid lipstick is definitely up there, but at the same time, that packaging is just stunning. So I think I'll be able to deal with it. And also I do really want to try out that liquid lip formula. But yeah, so this guy has a short amount of time left in my collection, but you'll notice the other ones don't have a long time at all left in my collection. The last of just like the single products that I have that are on the chopping block of either going to be decluttered soon or I'm very much leaning towards decluttering is this guy right here. This is the Black Moon Cosmetics Liquid Lipstick in Sleepwalker. It's a black liquid lip. It's a really nice and comfortable formula, and it's a really nice black too. It's nice and opaque. The only issue that I have with this guy is that I don't like the formula. Like, okay, I know I just said that is a very comfortable formula. It very much is. It's the texture of the formula that I don't like. I do not like thin liquid lipsticks, and this is a very thin formula. It's nice and opaque and very comfortable. Yes, those are all great things about it, but because of the fact that it's so thin, I always struggle with applying this guy, and with it being a black, if you're going to struggle with applying a black liquid lipstick, that is not a good sign because things can get real messy real quick or really weird really quick. So I just don't use it. It's a nice formula other than that, but it's just not for me. And then the last two that are on the soon to be decluttered list are two palettes. So this first one here is the NYX Ultimate Brights palette. This is a really nice rainbow palette. It's a really great formula. Like, for this type of shade to be as difficult as it is to formulate, this is actually a really good deep purple shade that's in here. I just don't use this palette enough, and some of the shades in here are not the type of finish that I want them to be. Like, say for like this green here, I wish that it didn't have like the sparkles that it has in it and everything. I wish that it was just a true matte. The same thing goes for this red. This red has a lot of sparkles in it as well. They are of a sequin formula, which is a matte shadow but with glitter or sparkle that runs throughout it. And although a lot of times sequin shades can perform as mattes, since there are so much like little micro sparkles in the sequin shades that are in this palette, they always like translate on the eye, which I know for some people might be a good thing, but for me, I thought going into getting this palette that this was an all matte palette, and it's not. But I will say this though, this palette performs really well. Like, the purples perform really great, the blues perform really great. Like, this blue also surprisingly performs really well. On camera it's looking a lot brighter. Let me dull down the exposure real quick. It'll be a little bit more true to color. But yeah, this type of blue here is also really difficult to formulate, but it performs really nicely. A really nice palette. It's just that some of the shades in here aren't tones that I want to have in a rainbow palette, and also with the sequin shades as well, it's just to me. So I am going to hold on to this for the time being, but once I get a replacement rainbow palette, this guy will be getting the chop. I mean, if you want like a good like rainbow palette that you can find at the drugstore or at Walmart or what have you, this is a really nice palette for the price point and everything. It's only about $18, and it's a great formula and it's a great rainbow palette. I just don't get enough use out of it because some of the tones and finishes aren't exactly what I want out of a rainbow palette. And the last palette that I have here to show you guys that will soon be decluttered is a bit of a sad one to talk about, because this was the first palette that I ever tried from this brand, and I loved this palette when I first got it. It's just that I don't use it enough to warrant keeping it. And that is the Zulu palette from Juvia's Place. This is a stunning palette. I remember I created 4 looks using this palette. I did a look using this row, and this row individually, and then I did a look using all 9 of them, and that look that I did using all 9 shades was such a bomb look. It was so cool. The only reasons why I'm holding on to this palette are for this orange, the yellow, and this green. But I recently got an alternative for this green that is very similar to it. The only difference is that this one definitely pulls more green, and the one that I got to be an alternative for it pulls a little bit more yellow. But I honestly like that aspect about that guy. Overall, this is a great performing palette, but I mean, like, this purple doesn't perform very well. But like I mentioned with that NYX palette, these types of purples are extremely difficult to formulate. And also, this brown shade doesn't perform very well, which I found to be very interesting. Just don't use this palette enough, and so I will be parting ways with it once I get an alternative for the yellow and the orange, especially the orange. Getting an alternative for that orange is going to be so difficult because a lot of the oranges that I have in my collection currently pull more red. And this orange that is in here is like a true orange. Like, it's like a perfect blend of red and yellow. And I also need to get like a better yellow because this one is more of like a rich, bright yellow. The yellows that I already have in my collection pull a little bit more mustard in tone. They're still very bright and yellow. It's just that this one it's just a better tone of yellow. I will be parting ways with this guy, but it definitely had a very fun time with me though, and I definitely have like a strong attachment to this guy because, like I said, this was my first Juvia's Place palette. I was so excited about getting it, and I loved it so much when I first had it, but I just don't use it enough to keep it. Alright, so we'll start out with the empties first because these are just gonna go in the trash. The first item that I have here is one of my favorite lip balms that I've ever tried in like recent years, and I love lip balms. I've tried so many of them. I'm actually trying a new one right now that I'm really enjoying. It's from Dr. Bronner's. I'm really enjoying it so far, but this guy was the Preventative Measures 101 After Hours Lip Balm, and I got this in one of my Ipsy glam bags when I tried it over the summer, and I really enjoyed this lip balm. Let me down this exposure a bit so you can see a little bit better. And this is a really nice lip balm. It is a bit pricey just to get a single tube. I think it's like $7 or $8, but you can get a 3-pack from them for about $16, which is a good deal. It's just that once you factor up like shipping and tax, it winds up going up to be like $21, and I personally could not justify spending $21 on 3 lip balms. I really do like this lip balm. I'll probably repurchase it sometime in the future. But yeah, I definitely love this guy. And this guy lasted me a very long time too. Because like I said, I got this guy over the summer and I just finally used it up about maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. The next empty, it's not 100% empty, but I've had it for so long and I'm just fed up with using it. It is the e.l.f. Daily Hydration Moisturizer. This is a pretty decent moisturizer. It's definitely not my favorite moisturizer that I've tried. I've tried a lot of different moisturizers over the years, and this one is a good one, just not my favorite. But this was my second tube of using this guy, and I am glad to say that I'm done using it. Like I said, it's not a bad moisturizer, it's just that there are ones that I enjoy a lot more than this one. Then we have the YouTube to People Super Berry Hydrate and Glow Dream Mask. This was, again, a item that I got in one of my Ipsy glam bags over the summer, and I used it up all the way about a month or 2 ago, and I really enjoyed this guy. I use this as a regular moisturizer though, because although yes, it is considered to be a mask and it has a thicker consistency than like a regular moisturizer, I just found myself preferring to use this during the day because of the fact that I have such dry skin. So with using this during the day, it just ensured that like my skin was going to be nice and hydrated throughout the day, and also as the day would progress, like my skin would continue to develop more and more of a healthy glow. And I really did enjoy this guy, but I don't think I'll repurchase it. It's another product that I got from YouTube to People. I think it was the Kale and Spinach moisturizer. I think it was what it was. It was just like a regular moisturizer. That one I definitely want to repurchase at some point, but this one not so much. The other one I definitely want to, because I do prefer it over this one, because like I mentioned, this one's a lot thicker. That one's just like your regular moisturizer, and honestly they both gave me like the same type of results that I look for in a moisturizer, so I'm gonna go with that one over this one. And then we have another moisturizer here. I'm telling you guys, I love moisturizers, alright? But this one was a free birthday gift from Sephora in 2019, and I finally used it up. It is the Protini Polypeptide Cream from Drunk Elephant. This product is wonderful. It is such a nice moisturizer, but I will say this, I am not going to purchase a full size of it. And the reason being is because Tatcha skincare, like the Tatcha moisturizers, like the water cream and the dewy skin cream, they cost the same amount as the full size of this guy, but you get more in the Tatcha products than you do in this one. So this one winds up being more expensive. It's a really great moisturizer and I really enjoyed it. It's just that knowing that's how things work out and whatnot with it, I won't be repurchasing it, but it's definitely a good product. If you want to try out a good moisturizer, highly recommend this guy. It's a really good one. And yes, I did say that I got this guy back in 2019. My birthday is in June, so I had this guy for about a year and a half. And yeah, I made this little tiny amount last because I enjoyed it that much and I didn't want to run through it that quickly because of the fact that I knew that it was stupid expensive. And those are all the empties. So now let's move on into just like the single products that I'm going to be decluttering, whether it be because I just don't care for them or I don't like them, they're old, or they're extremely old. Let's start out with the items that are just extremely old first, which is honestly just one item here, and that is this guy. This product has been discontinued for years, and I've had this product for way too fucking long, and that is the NYX Wonder Pencil and Light. This guy, this was such a great product. It's a concealer pencil type of product. It came in 3 shades. There was light, medium, and I think deep, I think is what the darkest shade was called. I don't remember. Like I said, this is an old product. It's been discontinued for a long time. I got this product back in 2015 and I'm just being like, you gotta get rid of it, dude. I loved using this guy in my waterlines. It was such a great product, and I remember there was also a period of time when I was like learning makeup and everything. I would actually use this guy to draw around my eyebrows to like shape them a bit better and to carve them out. It was a horrible look because it just highlighted my eyebrows because this product doesn't blend very well. So I just started using it in the waterlines and it was great for that. Not so much on the face. There's another empty. I forgot about this guy because of the fact that it's just in like regular packaging and everything, but this is the Anastasia Brow Wiz. This is in, I had the shade Taupe and I really enjoyed this guy. I used it a lot. It was my only brow pencil for a long time, but I used it completely up. Like it doesn't twist past this point. But I really did enjoy this guy. I got this on a deal with Sephora back in 2019, and that deal was I think it was like 20 or 30% off your first brow purchase because I had just made like an account with them and became part of like the insider program. And so like I was able to get like 20 or 30% off my first brow purchase, and I was just like, I can't justify spending like $21 on this brow pencil, but I can justify spending $18. And I think it was like $18. And then like after the shipping, I think it wound up being about $21. So I still wound up paying like full price for it. But I would have rather had paid that price than paying like $26 to like $27 for this brow pencil. And it's a nice little brow pencil. I really love the color of this guy. The brow pencil that I've been using is the NYX Micro Brow Pencil, which I do really enjoy. It's a very similar formula to this. It's just that I prefer this color a little bit more because the NYX brow pencil in Taupe is very ashy, which is what you would expect with a name like that. But this guy here is more neutral in tone, which I find like works with my beard a lot better. I mean, my eyebrows are naturally extremely ashy. Like, I have the bare minimum of like brow pencil in my brows today. So my eyebrows are very ashy in general for whatever reason. I don't know why, because my beard matches my natural hair color. So with having this brow pencil, it helped add like some warmth to my brows to help tie into my beard and my natural hair color a little bit better. But either which way, I'm totally fine with not repurchasing this guy because, again, I can't really justify spending like $21 on a brow pencil, but it was definitely a great product. I have two mascaras here, and these are mini mascaras. We have the Tarte Lights Camera Lashes mascara, and then we have the Ilia Limitless Lash mascara right here. I'll start out with talking about this one here. This is a really nice formula. It's just that as time went by and I've started getting like to the point where I'm almost out of it, the wand started stabbing me in my lash line all the time. And I don't know if it was just because I started changing how I apply mascara or if it's because of the fact that I was running low on it. I don't know. I don't know. And me, I'm the type of person, this is going to be gross to a lot of people, I'm the type of person who will hold on to mascaras for a long time. Like, I've had this mascara for about nearly a year, and I'm just now decluttering it. But like I said, like, there's just something about the wand that's just really been bothering me lately with this guy, so I'm decluttering it for that reason. It's a great formula, I just don't like the wand. And then when it comes to the Tarte mascara, I got this guy over the summer, and this is the shortest amount of time that I've ever kept a mascara, because normally I'm not the type of person to like get rid of a mascara so soon, because I still got a good amount of product left in this guy. And it's a great formula. I really do like it. It's very similar to that of the Milk Kush mascara, which I'm wearing that mascara on my lashes today. But the issue that I started having with this mascara though is that it started making my eyes itch. And I've never had that happen to me before with a mascara until trying out this guy. So this might be the type of mascara where you had to get rid of it after like the 3 or so months that they say that you're supposed to keep mascaras for. I mean, I'm still gonna keep mascaras for as long as I feel like they're good. Like, I mean, I have a Urban Decay mascara, like a full-size Perversion mascara that I got about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it's still going fine, so yeah. Next up we have a liner pencil, and this is the NYX Always Keeping It Tight retractable eyeliner, and this is in the shade Nude. I got this to be an alternative for the Wonder Pencil, and this guy is just way too fine of a pencil. As you can see, it is a very, 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 very fine point. Now, you could easily use this in your waterlines if you wanted to. It's just that with it being so fine and it being a very emollient formula, it constantly was breaking off whenever I would try applying this to the waterlines. I don't know if they advertised this product to be put in the waterlines, but I tried it and it never worked. Now, I will also say this, I didn't expect this product to be as thin as it is. I thought that it would be like a typical retractable liner pencil, but no, it is very, very fine. It's very thin, and I tried to get some use out of it, but for one, I stopped really putting nude pencil liners on my waterline anyways, because I found out that, hey, this doesn't really make that much of a difference anymore, I've noticed, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. But also because of the fact that it's just so difficult to work with, yeah. So I am going to part ways with this guy. I don't think I'll give this to a friend because of the fact that I've run it through my eyes and everything, so this will just be going in the trash. The Araceli Ojos Perfectos Gel Pencil Eyeliner. Now, I got this in my first Ipsy Glam bag, and this is a really nice black pencil liner. It's a really good one. It's just that I have 2 other black pencil liners, and I preferred that formula over this one. And I don't need to have 3 black pencil liners, especially when I don't wear black pencil liner often. So I'm gonna part ways with this guy. It's a great formula though, it has really nice lasting power and is a really nice black. So I am gonna sanitize this and part ways with it, and give it to like a friend or a family member because I know that they'll get more use out of it than I will. But I really do like this product. It's just that I don't need it, so I'm gonna part ways with it. Since we're on the Ipsy train, let's talk about this next product that I also got in, I think, my first Ipsy clam bag. This is the Space Case Cosmetics Scene from Space highlighter in 1A. This is a really pretty highlighter. It's a champagne tone, and it's really pretty. The only problem is that I can make this work on me. It's just that I have to be very careful with it because of the fact that it's very yellow toned. I am not a very yellow toned person. I am more on the pink and peach side of things. So I have to be careful with how much I use this guy, or else it just winds up just being very yellow on the skin. But also I've wound up realizing, like, over the last few months that powder highlighters just aren't for me. They tend to always just not look great on me. So I am going to be parting ways with this guy for those particular reasons, but it is a nice formula, so I know somebody will definitely enjoy this a lot more than me. And then lastly, we have this other item from my first Ipsy Glam bag. I think I've decluttered almost everything that I got in that first Ipsy Glam bag. But this is the Nomad Cosmetics Single Eyeshadow in the shade Aperitivo. And this is a really pretty shadow, and it's a really nice formula. There are two reasons why I'm parting ways with it though. For one, the color. The color, although it's very pretty, I don't reach for it often enough to keep it. But the main reason why I'm parting ways with this guy is because I wound up learning shortly after getting this guy and wanting to look into the brand, I wound up learning that Nomad Cosmetics tends to formulate some of their shadows with argan oil, and I am allergic to argan oil. And so because of that, although I didn't have a reaction when I used this shadow, I don't want to take the risk of possibly using this and then one day having a reaction, or any other shadows and having a reaction to them. So I am going to go ahead and just part ways with this guy because I know that somebody will get better use out of it than I will. This next item here, I don't know who I'm going to give this to, because I wound up learning recently that it turns out that this brand isn't cruelty free, even though for years I heard that this brand was cruelty free. So I don't know if things just changed recently or what, but I don't need all of this. I do not need this entire thing of this product, and that is Airspun powder. I got this guy several years ago, and it doesn't even look like I've made a dent because of the fact that I have such dry skin. I don't need to really use powder that much. I will only use powder on like my under eyes to set concealer. If I've noticed that I applied just a little bit too much concealer that day, then I'll use like a tiny amount of setting powder. And I have like a really tiny thing of the KVD Lock-It setting powder and translucent. That's going to be totally fine for me to last me for an eternity. This will last me for generations. So I am going to part ways with this guy, but I don't know if anybody will take it because of the fact that it turns out that this brand isn't cruelty free, which, like I mentioned, for a very long time, I thought that this brand was cruelty free because a lot of cruelty free people talked about this guy and raved about it, but it turns out that it's not. I don't know if this was a recent change or if people were just lying and just didn't know. I don't know. But I am going to part ways with this guy. But I will say this though, I love the smell of this powder so much. It smells so nice. Next up I have a face primer, and it's a little deluxe sample of it, and it's from Beauty Blender, and it is the Leveler Pore Minimizing Primer. I got this in a little offer thingy from Sephora where the deal was like spend $25 and then redeem this code and you get like 10 like foundation / concealer sample sheets, DVD, Lock-It setting powder that I mentioned just a moment ago, and also this guy. And I was just like, okay, sure, I'll try them out and everything. And I gave this primer a go. And pores are an issue for me, so I didn't notice a single difference. So I am going to part ways with this guy and give it to somebody who will get better use out of it. It does feel good on the skin, I will say that. It's just that because I don't have an issue with pores, I never notice a difference with using it. Next up is this little bit of a glitter that I held on to. and I'm just gonna get rid of it. This is like a teeny tiny amount of the NYX glitter and bronze. And I held on to this little tiny bit of it because I was just like, I might want to use some glitter one day and everything, so I'm gonna keep it. Because I accidentally bought that glitter. Like, I don't know why I bought it. I just was just like thinking like, oh, I need a bronze glitter for something, but it wasn't a bronze glitter that I was wanting to have and everything. It was some other bronze thing and everything that I wanted to have, but I went after a bronze glitter instead. I don't know. This was a couple of years ago. But I parted ways with like the full size of it and just kept like a tiny amount in this little container here because I knew that this would be a perfect amount for me to keep. Like, it's not even that full. Like, it looks like it's more full than it is because the glitter is so fine and sticking to the walls, but there's hardly any product in there. I just haven't used it. I haven't used this at all. Even since getting it, I haven't even used this glitter at all. So I'm gonna part ways with it. And then I have these other glitters that are from Corpse Cosmetics, which I think they have closed down because I tried peeking at their site a couple months ago and I didn't see the site available. Like, the site didn't seem to exist. So I think this brand might not exist anymore. But I got these glitters from the owner of the brand several years ago. These aren't the packaging that they came in. I put them in these little containers. They came in little plastic baggies. This was a very, very, like, very indie one-man show type of brand. And we have this first shade of glitter. This was Exile, which is like green. It's got some gold in there. This was the one that I used the most, but I didn't use it all that often either, and I just don't use glitter enough to keep it, so that's why I'm parting ways with all these glitters. The next shade that I have is Izayoi. It's a really pretty shade. It's just that for some reason it just did not translate enough on my eyes whenever I used it, so that's a big bummer, but it looks so pretty though. It's like a lavender, and it's got some like very like fine green flecks in it and some like periwinkle flecks. It's so pretty. And then we have Immortal, which is a silver, which I don't know if I ever used this one. And then lastly we have Bling Bling, which is a gold, and again I don't think I ever used this one either. And the last of the Corpse products that I have, I decluttered like the two other Corpse shadows that I had, but I'm going to declutter this one now, and it is in the shade Coven, and this was the packaging that it came in, and it's a really pretty like red with like a subtle like fuchsia shift to it, and it's a really pretty color. It's just that I just don't reach for it. I just don't use it, and although it's super pretty, I just don't use it, and because of that I am going to part ways with it. Next up we have the other 5 of the mini lipsticks that came in that mini lip set bundle from ABH. In that bundle we had Brandy, which is like this oxblood dark burgundy red type of shade. We had Plumeria, which is a berry. Dusty Mauve, which is a dusty mauve. This one I really loved. I really loved the color of this one a lot. Then we have Ruby, which this one I got the most use out of. It's such a good red. Such a good red. And lastly, we have Latte, which is like a cool brown nudie type of shade. But I just don't use them. I just don't use them enough, and it's also difficult having to use them because I have to apply them using a brush, which I know like if you're a working artist, that's how you apply lipsticks onto clients anyways. But on yourself and everything, that's just a bit much. And I also just don't use them that often. I'm more of a liquid lip type person anyways, although I have been noticing that I've been using bullet lipsticks a lot lately. And the last 2 items that I have are 2 liquid lipsticks from KVD, and both of these shades have been discontinued, although I do think you could still get one of these shades on Sephora for $5 if you really want the shade. But the shades that I am decluttering are Dreamer and Melancholia. When I started seeing the KVD liquid lipstick shades go on sale for $5 each on Sephora, I started picking them up. I picked up a few other shades as well, both in full size and minis. But these two shades I was really excited for. I thought Melancholia wasn't gonna be this pale though. Like, this is a very like milky kind of color. It is very pale and not very flattering on me. It is just a really pale color. It's described as a blush pink. And when I saw that, I was just like, oh, that's a really pretty color description. I think that I'll like it. I thought that it was going to be a lot softer in tone than this, but it's very bright, very milky, and pale. I'll see if I can find like the photo of a look that I did using this guy. It just does not look good on me. It just does not look good on me. Then too, I was just having a bad makeup day that day too that I tried it out. But still, it just did not look good on me. And then Dreamer here is just this really pretty like turquoise color. It's a really pretty shade. It's just that for some reason it's not the most opaque, and I would have to do like 2 or maybe even 3 layers to get full opacity with it. And it's a pretty color, but I have an alternative for it now. It's the Sugar Pill Little Twin Stars collection liquid lipstick in the shade Kiki. It's the same color, although Kiki does have a bit of a sparkle that runs through it. It's like I think like a gold sparkle that's in it. So that's the only difference. This one is just like simply this color, but Kiki has like a little bit of like reflect in it. But Kiki is like opaque right from the jump. This one isn't. So I am going to part ways with both of these guys. I did think about possibly using these for like liners, but I know I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just part ways with these guys. I know somebody else might really enjoy these a lot more than me. So I'm going to part ways with them and let them have them. And now it's time to dive into the palettes. I forgot that I had these here. I was about to be excited because I was like, oh yay, we're done. But now we got to get into the palettes that I'm decluttering, and there are quite a few of them here. I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm just going to go in this order of how they're stacked here. This first one that I have here is the Afrique palette by Juvia's Place. This is the color story of it. It's not a bad color story at all, and the shades in here are really nice. They all perform really well. My problem is though, is that when I look in this palette, it is so hard for me to think of a cohesive look. I don't know what it is about this palette, but I struggle with coming up with concepts for a cohesive look with this palette. And because like for me these days, I prefer just using a single palette for a look, and I just struggle sometimes trying to come up with a concept using this palette. I mean, I have created looks just using this palette, but it's so hard for me to think of other looks that I could possibly create besides the ones that I did. But when it came to like Cote d'Ivoire and Contenu, it was so hard for me to figure out like what looks to wear to pair them up with. I mean, yeah, I could have paired them up with like Dakar and Cameroon because complementary colors, but still, I just really struggled with creating concepts with this palette. And I was so excited about getting this palette too, because I mean like it had like a really nice green in it, and like this yellow seemed really fun as well. The same thing goes for like the blue and the orange there. It just all around just seemed like a really cool palette. And like originally the only reason why I was going to wind up keeping it was for this Contenu shade, but I have an alternative for it now. So I'm going to part ways with it. Like, I was so excited about trying out this palette, and it just turned out to be like one of my least favorite palettes ever, because it was just so hard for me to think of concepts. Next up we have the NYX Ultimate Smoky and Highlight palette. This was a gift that I got for Christmas a few years ago from my cousin Kaylee. And I definitely enjoyed this palette. It's a really nice smoky eye palette. It's just that I have other formulas that I prefer to this one. Some of the shades in here, they just don't perform nearly as well as I would like them to, but I do like a lot of the colors in here. Like this green shade was my favorite in this palette. It's such a good shade, but the rest of them just don't perform nearly as well as I would have liked to. But it's a decent palette, but it's not the best one, so I am going to part ways with this guy. Next up we have the Mini Nubian palette from Juvia's Place, and I picked up this palette from Ulta as well as like the other Juvia's Place palettes that I have and whatnot. And I got this guy because I wanted to try out Juvia's Place's neutrals. Now I'm just throwing it on the floor. I wanted to try out their neutrals, and so I got this palette, used it once, and that's it. And that was nearly 2 years ago when I got this palette. And the look that I created using this palette was really good. Like the photo that I use and post everywhere of me using this guy, like I edited it, and it was like one of the very few times of which I've edited a photo and it looked stunning. And I really enjoyed the look that I created with it. It's just that ever since then I've just never used it. And I mean, the shadows on here perform nicely. It's just I don't reach for it, so I'm gonna give it to somebody who will. Okay, so this next one is a bit different because I'm decluttering packaging, but not the shadows. So this is the Melt Cosmetics Impulsive palette, and this is the packaging for it. This was a palette that they released for holiday a couple of years ago, I think. Maybe even not that long ago. But I depanned it. I took all the pans, I took all the shadows out of here and popped them into an empty magnetic palette, because the cool thing about Melt shadows that come in like this rectangular pan is that they're all magnetic. So you can pop them out of the pans and pop them into your magnetic palettes, or if you want to, you can rearrange them inside the palette, whichever one you want to do. And so, yeah, because this packaging is really bulky and chunky and just takes up space that doesn't need to be taken up. But I do really like the shadows that are in this palette. You do have a lot more like shimmers and metallics than you do mattes in this palette. I think there are only about 7 mattes out of 18 shades in this palette, but I still really enjoy it, and I am happy to have it in a much smaller bit of packaging. Next up we have the only product that I've ever tried from BH Cosmetics, and that is the Blushing and Bali palette. And I use this palette a lot, as you can see. This is a pretty decent face palette. You have 3 blush shades and 3 highlight shades in here. As you can see, I used this blush shade a lot. This is lychee, and then you have coral and pomegranate here. And then I also used the Glisten highlight a good bit, and I dabbled into Sunkissed every so often. Sometimes I could get away with it if I used a light enough hand, but I never did use Ember. And I think I only used pomegranate once, but I mixed it in with lychee here, because I would use like lychee on its own, I would use coral on its own, I would mix them two together a lot and everything. But I'm parting ways with this guy though, because similarly to powder highlighters, I've wound up learning that I don't care for a lot of powder blush formulas either, and it's just a personal preference of mine, and also I just don't use this palette enough, so I'm gonna get rid of it. It's gonna be thrown away because it's been heavily used, as you can see, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably be like, I don't want to use that because that is a powdery ass mess, and I totally understand that sentiment. Even though it's extremely powdery, it is a nice formula, but also when it comes to blush formulas, I do prefer formulas that are buildable, and this is not a buildable formula. It's just like wha-bam right from the get-go. Next up we have the last Juvia's Place palette that I have that I'm going to be decluttering, and this is another one that's hard for me to like let go of, but I have alternatives for everything that's in this palette, so yeah, and that is the Deuce palette. I use this palette so much, and I really loved this palette, but I didn't use it enough. Like, I only ever really used Creme and Puffs, like these 2 shades. Like, I would use Creme as a blush, and I would use Puffs as a highlighter. As you can see, there's a massive dent in there, and because I just love pink toned highlighters, and so I would use it a lot as a face highlight. But again, started learning that powder highlights just don't look good on me, so I am gonna part ways with this guy. Again, a lot of the shades in here perform really well, except for this brown shade. This brown shade just, nah. And then this tart shade doesn't really show up. And then for some reason, Mont Blanc here looks really dark in the pan. Not that dark. It is a very sheer shade. And this palette in general is just like, aside from like these 3 shades here, everything else I do not care for. So, and I have alternatives for all 3 of these shades in my collection. So I'm happy with being able to part ways with this and to give it to someone who will get more use out of it than me. Next up, I got a palette that I tried out last year, and I do like the formula on it. It's just that, let's just get on with it. This is the Smashbox Cover Shop palette in Sunlit Yellow, and this color story is why I got it, and it's because it reminds me a lot of the Anastasia Subculture palette. Now at the time, I didn't have the Subculture palette because I wasn't using Mercari back then, but I've started using Mercari and have found several people selling the Subculture palette on there. So I picked up a Subculture palette off of Mercari and prefer it over this one because for some reason, although this palette performs really well, I know the reviews on Ulta back when this guy was available, because originally the Cover Shop palettes around for $29. This guy got marked down to $20, and then it got marked down to $10 and some change when I got it. So I got it for like 10 bucks and some change, and I think I probably got one of the last ones that they had. A lot of the reviews on there said that they got this guy because of the fact that it reminded them of the Subculture palette, but they complained that these 2 shades performed really badly. But the thing is though, is that they were basing their judgments off of swatches. These 2 shades here do not swatch well, but they perform wonderfully on the eyes. Like when I used this palette over the summer, I created such a gorgeous look. I'll pop it up on the screen so you guys can see it. It was such a stunning look. I used all 8 shades in this palette creating the look, and it's a great palette. It's a great formula. I just don't get inspiration from it. I don't know what it is, because it's the same color story as the Subculture palette, yet I'm more inspired by the Subculture palette than I am this guy. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why it is. I feel like this guy just makes me feel more limited, whereas the Subculture palette, I am more inspired and whatnot. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's interesting. But I will say this yellow bomb. It's a great palette, and I know someone will get great use out of it because it's a wonderful formula and palette. Just remember, like, whomever might get this, don't base your judgments off of swatches, because the shadows in here perform brilliantly on the eyes. They just do not swatch well. Second to last palette that we have here is the Morphe 8H palette, and this is a bronzer and highlighter palette. I got this from Ipsy because when I signed up for Ipsy over the summer, when I had signed up for them, part of the incentive for me to do so was that, like, sign up now and get this Morphe palette for free. And I was just like, okay, I'll do it. And so I did it, and I've used this palette a few times, but I've only have really used this bronzer here. Everything else has just been swatched and possibly dipped into this beam highlighter in here. It's alright. I did learn from using this palette that I do like neutral toned bronzers. So that's one thing, because this donut bronzer here is a neutral tone. And the bronzers perform nicely. The only issue is that these 3 all look the same and this one is different. And then when it comes to highlighters, these 3 all look the same and this one is different. And also with the highlighters, they are very powdery. I don't know if you guys can see this in the palette, but there's so much dust around the highlighter pans because they are just so powdery. And it's weird. It's weird for me to see a powdery highlighter formula. I'm gonna part ways with this, partially because of the fact that I don't really care for the product, but a big reason for it is because I don't support Morphe. And the last palette and the last item in this declutter, this is a hard one for me to let go of because I have so many great memories attached to this palette, what the looks that I've created. But it's time to say goodbye because I haven't used this palette in so long that I haven't like reached for it in so long, because like the last time that I reached for this palette, I made myself reach for it. So, but I haven't willingly reached for it in a long time. And that is the original formula for the Jaclyn Hill X Morphe palette volume 1. I got this guy at the end of 2017 and it still performs like I first got it. And it's a great palette. It's a wonderful formula. Like, I use this shade up here, Faint, so much as like a face highlighter, because like I mentioned earlier, I love pinky tone highlighters. But I just don't willingly reach for this palette. Like, I don't even remember the last time I reached for it. Like, I was thinking about making like some sort of like challenge for myself to create like individual looks using each row of this palette. So create a look using all of these shades and only those shades, and then so on and so forth for each row. But I never did it because it was just like, I don't want to use this palette. It's just time to say goodbye. And I really enjoyed this palette when I had it, because I mean, when I first got this palette, I was so excited to get it. At that point in time, I wasn't really like all aboard like the Jaclyn hype train back then, but I still really wanted this palette because it was just a really good color story. And like, it had like neutrals and it had color in it, well, some color in it, and like I was so inspired because back then I was creating a lot of grungy looks, and I knew that I could create some good grungy looks with this palette, which I did. I definitely created some good grungy looks with this palette. It's time to say goodbye to this guy. Like I said, I know somebody will get a lot of love and use out of this guy, because I mean, like, I know it doesn't look like I've used this palette a lot, but trust me, I use this palette a lot. Like, I mostly played with like these like more like red shades in here, and these pops of color here, and some of the deeper shades down here. Those are the shades that I mostly played with. But man, this is such a good palette, and it's a shame that Morphe changed the formula on it. You were good to me for a while. It's time to say goodbye. And that is it. I've been recording for nearly an hour and a half, and we are finally done with this declutter. There is a lot of stuff that I decluttered here. Some of these items are just old and need to be thrown away, and some of them I'm just not attached to anymore and I don't need them. I hope you guys enjoyed this declutter. I know I enjoy watching declutters. I know this isn't like your typical type of declutter video, because I know with a lot of declutters, people usually show themselves digging through their entire collections and showing their entire collections as they declutter. I do want to do one of those types of declutters sometime in the future, but I'm waiting till I'm like happy with my makeup collection, so that way I can just do like, this is my makeup collection, and show you guys my collection as we go through it, and then possibly declutter as I go through it. So yeah, but for now, this is what you guys are going to get from me when it comes to declutters. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and just like taking this trip through things that I'm getting rid of and whatnot. Until I see you guys in my next video, whenever the hell that may be. Goodbye.